All right, so today we're diving deep into the world of cycling podcasts.
Okay, sounds good.
Specifically, we're looking for a podcast that really gets into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
For someone who wants to understand the big races, not just,
Right.
not just the surface level stuff.
Yeah, like beyond who won.
Exactly, beyond who won.
Right.
And I think I've got one. I think I've got a good one.
Okay, what is it?
It's called the Cycling Podcast.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
Yeah, and it focuses on, the major races, the Tour de France,
Mm-hmm.
the Giro d'Italia, Vuelta, España, all the big ones.
Right.
But it's not just, reporting the results. It's really about going deeper.
Okay, so what makes it stand out from other cycling podcasts?
Well, they get into the tactics. They interview cyclists and team directors.
Oh, wow.
They have these really interesting discussions about the sport as a whole.
So it's not just like play-by-play commentary, it's more analytical.
Exactly. Like you really get a feel for the strategy involved.
Yeah.
The thinking behind each team's approach.
I see, yeah. That makes sense.
And the decisions that the cyclists make during the race.
So for someone who wants to understand like the nuances
Yeah.
of the sport, this is a good one.
This is they break it down in such a way that even if you're not like
Yeah.
a seasoned cycling expert, you can still follow along
Okay.
and learn a lot, about the sport.
And you mentioned they analyze the races in detail.
Yeah, it's not just about,
Yeah. Right.
who finished first. It's about how did they get there?
Mm-hmm.
What were the key moments in the race? What were the tactics that were used?
Okay, so they really break down those races and give the listener
Yes.
all the information they need to really understand it.
And I think that's what makes it so valuable
Yeah.
for someone who really wants to get into cycling,
Right.
beyond just watching it on TV.
And you said they have those behind the scenes stories.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite parts.
What kind of stories do they tell?
Well, like they talk about, the personalities of the cyclists, the rivalries, the friendships, the struggles.
Okay.
They had this one episode where they talked about how this one team
Okay.
had actually hidden a rider's injury.
Really?
Yeah, to gain a strategic advantage.
Wow. That's interesting.
It's like, you think you know everything about a race,
Yeah.
but then you listen to this podcast and you're like, wow. Oh my God, there's so much more going on.
That's so cool. That adds a whole new layer to the sport.
It does. It does. And I think that's what makes the cycling podcast so engaging. It's not just about the physical aspect of the race.
Right.
It's about the mental game, the strategy, the human stories.
Yeah, and I think those are the things that really connect with people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting this insider's view
Exactly.
into the world of professional cycling.
And you mentioned expert opinions.
Oh yeah, they bring in all sorts of experts.
Who are these experts? Like, what's their background?
Well, they've had former pro cyclists,
Okay.
coaches, team managers, journalists,
Yep.
people who really know the sport inside and out.
So it's not just random people giving their opinions.
No. These are
Yeah.
people who've been there, done that.
Right. That's great. So their insights are really valuable.
Exactly. And I think that's what sets this podcast apart
Mm-hmm.
from a lot of others. It's not just,
Yeah.
two guys sitting around talking about cycling.
Right.
They really bring in the A team,
And those different perspectives
Yeah.
probably help to paint a complete picture of the sport.
Absolutely. And you get a sense of the different viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
You hear from the riders, you hear from the coaches, you hear from the journalists, and you start to understand the sport
Yeah.
from all these different angles.
So would you say this podcast is accessible to everyone?
I would, obviously, the more you know about cycling, the more you're going to get out of it.
Sure.
But even if you're just a casual fan, I think you'll still find it really interesting.
Okay.
And informative,
So if someone was interested in learning more about like the tactics
Yeah.
behind these races, this would be a good.
This would be a great place to start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they really do a good job of explaining things
Okay.
in a way that's easy to understand.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, like I used to think the breakaway rider
Mm-hmm.
was always like the strongest rider.
Right.
But listening to this podcast, I've learned that it's often more about teamwork
Right.
and timing
Yeah.
and strategy
Yeah.
than it is about like raw power.
And that's what's so fascinating about those big races.
Exactly. And this podcast really does a good job
Okay.
of highlighting that.
So it sounds like the cycling podcast is a great resource
I think so, yeah.
for anyone who wants to
Yeah.
dive deeper into professional cycling.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're looking for a podcast that goes beyond
Mm,
the headlines and really gives you a deep understanding
right.
of the sport, I think this is the one.
Okay, great recommendation.
Yeah, I think so.
So for all of you listening out there, if you want to learn more about professional cycling
Yes.
with detailed analysis, behind-the-scenes stories, and expert opinions,
That's it, yeah.
check out the Cycling Podcast.
Exactly. And as you listen,
Yeah.
think about what aspect of cycling
Okay.
really captures your imagination.
Okay.
Is it the athleticism, the strategy, the human drama?
Okay.
And see if this podcast delves into those areas in a way that speaks to you.
Yeah, you might discover something new about the sport.
You never know.
Exactly.
All right. That's our deep dive for today.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.